Welcome to Reclaiming Me, a trauma-informed podcast helping women with complex PTSD heal the lasting impact of childhood attachment wounds from parents and caregivers, so you can finally release people-pleasing and perfectionism and learn to trust in relationships, beginning with the one you have with yourself. I'm your host, Cindy Payne, therapist, trauma specialist, and a woman who has walked this path both personally and professionally.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Midweek Reframe. In our full-length episode on Monday, we spent the episode deconstructing singer-songwriter Noah Kahan's song titled Staying Still. And we focused on the Nevermind Trap. And the Nevermind Trap, in case you didn't listen to the full-length episode yet, is that moment where we dismiss our own hurt to protect the comfort of an emotionally immature person. And for those of us with CPTSD, or if you suspect you might be a CPTSD survivor, you more than likely have had someone in your family of origin, maybe a parent, who you would now be able to say had some emotional immaturity. And that's a tough pill to swallow when we come to the realization that our caregiver lacked the skills, the desire, the willingness to show up for us in that way. And as I've listened to this album more and more over the week and reflected about it, I have linked this not only to my own formative years, but also just why I tend to get so bogged down sometimes in my own emotions when difficult life transitions come up. And as I prepared to get ready for my move to Northern California this summer from Texas, and I look ahead to next week's podcast episode that I'm going to be airing on family estrangement and the song Willing and Able from his latest album, The Great Divide, I realized that we need a bridge. We need a way to move from the feeling of being stuck to the thinking of a next step. So on Monday's full-length episode, I also talked about being an Enneagram type 1. And if you're not sure what the Enneagram is, just know that I will be airing some future episodes on that. So stay tuned if you're intrigued about that. But I digress. If you are an Enneagram 1 like me, or you know an Enneagram 1, you know that transition is where the friction lives for us type 1s. So as you can imagine, I am really being asked to just take a deeper dive right now because I am living in a transition right now with this move and with becoming an empty nester. So I wanted to just take today's episode to take a deeper dive again into that anatomy of a never mind. And I'm calling this the high road fallacy. And let me explain. In my clinical practice, I see so many high functioning survivors who really pride themselves on taking the high road. But as we look at the line from staying still, I'll be good, I'll be fine, I can laugh about it, we really have to ask, who is that high road for? If the high road requires you to perform what I call a somatic erasure, so basically just literally deleting our own emotional data to keep another person comfortable, then that's not grace. And I want to really just stop there for a moment, because oftentimes when we are CPTSD survivors and we're sharing our pain with someone who maybe does not have an understanding of the depth of this pain, they will tell us like, oh, just give them grace. You need to forgive. And there's nothing more infuriating to me personally than hearing that. Because if you're a CPTSD survivor, you've lived your whole life making excuses probably for other people's mistreatment. And that is not grace. That is actually self-abandonment. You aren't being strong. You are being absent from your own life. So instead of somatic erasure, I want us to look at it as the freeze reframe. We often think of freeze as playing dead, playing possum. But in a conversation, freeze can look like a polite smile and a never mind. Because your nervous system has scanned the room and it's already realized, maybe even before your cognitive brain can get it, that the person that you're talking to, perhaps an emotionally immature parent, cannot handle your reality. And it has hit the eject button on your truth. And as a child, this was a survival masterpiece. It kept you connected to the people that you depended on. But as an adult, you begin to realize the fragmentation. And you end the conversation, but your body stays in what Noah calls the Great Divide. So it's still carrying the words that you were never allowed to say. And so the skill that we want to move into is I don't have a better phrase for it. So the actually it matters pause. And how we would practice the actually it matters pause is by doing a throat check. And for those of us who are Enneagram 1s, this is called our somatic home. So for my fellow type 1s, the wrongness of a situation often lives in the throat and the jaw. And when I learned this, it was quite liberating because that tightening that I've been experiencing my whole life, what I know now is that it is my gut center trying to protect me. So instead of forcing the words down the next time this happens, I invite you to just notice the lump. The lump is, again, to refer to the Staying Still lyrics, it's the ceremony trying to take over. Before you say, never mind, give yourself 3 seconds of silence. And the stillness here does not have to be the trap. The stillness can actually be the boundary that you are working on naming, noticing, and then ultimately communicating. So the thinking pivot, which this really engages the repressed center for us type 1s, again, because we lead with feeling. The thinking pivot says this: because we are thinking repressed, we often think our only options are scream or disappear. The thinking pivot gives us a third door by asking, what is the one true thing that you are pulling yourself out of this emotional whirlpool and engaging your prefrontal cortex? That's exactly what's happening. You are moving from drowning in the emotion to observing the situation. And let me remind you how much practice this takes, and you're going to screw it up at first. It's going to feel so frustrating. It's going to feel like you're a kindergartner with your emotions, and that is normal. Okay. But here's a micro statement, and that is actually it matters. And that statement right there is the handbrake. Okay. It's not a plane crash. It's just a stop. So you don't need a 30-minute explanation. And I used to be guilty of this. I would go into actually it matters. And let me tell you all the reasons why. And can't you just see it from my point of view? And it was like this desperation, this begging to be understood. And I'm here to tell you that you can save yourself a ton of pain by understanding that that's not going to move the needle when you're dealing with somebody who's emotionally immature and perhaps even carries some narcissistic traits. But that's for a different episode. But just by saying, I'm actually still processing that, you are reclaiming the space that the never mind used to occupy. So you are signaling to your body, I see you and I'm not leaving you behind this time. And just a side note, I shared in the last episode that I have been watching and listening to several interviews with Noah where he talks about the meanings and the origin of a lot of these songs and how he's thinking about them. I mean, I understand that songs are left for interpretation. That's the beauty of creativity and art, right? As we can make it mean whatever we want it to us. But what I love is that when the interviewer asks him questions about the origin of these songs, you can tell when he's not fully ready or clear on what the songs are because they're still changing shape for him even after he wrote them. And I love that about him because he has the awareness to say, I'm still trying to figure out what this means to me. And it's such a permission giving act, isn't it? To say, I'm not really quite sure how I feel about that yet. I'm actually still processing that. That is so huge for us CPTSD survivors to actually be able to say, I don't know yet. This could change. I feel this way now, but I'm not sure how it's going to feel later. And it doesn't always land very well with our emotionally immature, family members or loved ones in our lives. And so I think that's the work that we have to do is to manage, again, the discomfort or maybe even the lack of understanding without abandoning ourselves. So this work is really the prerequisite for next week. And we can't really, in my opinion, talk about the song Willing and Able and family estrangement until we've practiced not abandoning ourselves in these small moments. And estrangement to me personally, it's not an easy decision. I don't ever want to frame it as the first resort because I think those of you who've had to make this very difficult decision understand that it came as your last resort and it probably came out of many years of trying. But to me, estrangement is that final thinking move for many. But again, it starts with these micro refusals to be fine when we are actually feeling so brokenhearted. So as you head into the rest of your week, especially if you're navigating your own great divide or a major transition like I am, I would invite you again just to remember that it is okay to be heavy right now. And to, again, reference staying still, you don't have to be the northern lights for everyone else's smog. So just know that I see you and I see you in your pain and I see you in the heaviness and there is space and time for all of it. So I hope to see you back with me next week as we get into more of the brilliant Noah Kahan's lyrics. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope you leave feeling a little lighter, a little more grounded, and a little closer to trusting yourself and your inner experience. If this episode resonated with you, please follow or subscribe so future conversations can meet you when they're needed. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, consider sharing this episode with them. That's one of the ways this work reaches the people who need it the most. You can find me on Instagram at Cindy Payne Rooted, and you can also visit me at cindypayne.com, where you'll find all episode links, blog posts, practice updates, and a free people-pleasing style quiz designed to help you notice your patterns with more compassion. And remember, every small step towards healing, self-trust, and presence matters. You are worthy of this journey. Thanks, everyone.